Imagine you're in the open sea. No land visible in any direction. The waves lift you and drop you without asking permission. Sometimes the water is calm and you feel everything's fine. Sometimes a bigger wave comes and you feel like you're drowning. And you, in the middle of all that, don't row. You just float, waiting for the sea to decide to be kind to you today. This is how most people live, tossed from one side to the other between fear and hope, between the terror that something bad will happen and the longing for something good to arrive, between anxiety about the future and regret about the past, without a fixed center from which to operate, without an oar in hand. Spinoza spent his entire life building that oar. He called it the ethics. And what he wrote there is not a list of rules about how to behave well. It's something far more ambitious and far more useful. It's the user manual for the human mind. The most precise description anyone has ever written about how emotions work, where they come from, what power they have over us, and how to reclaim that power. Today we're going to open that manual. And what we're going to find inside will make more than a few people uncomfortable. Because Spinoza has something to say about hope that no one expects to hear. Let's begin. Before diving into the concepts, you need to understand why Spinoza chose to write the Ethics as if it were a mathematics book. Definitions, axioms, propositions, demonstrations. Exactly like Euclid built geometry. It wasn't a stylistic whim. It was a radical philosophical statement. Spinoza was saying that human emotions are not chaotic or mysterious, that they follow laws as fixed and predictable as the laws of physics, that fear, envy, love, anger, joy, all obey a logic that can be understood, and what can be understood can be transformed. At the center of that entire system is a concept that's the fundamental piece of all Spinoza's philosophy: Conatus. In Latin, it means effort, striving, impulse. But what Spinoza means by that word goes far beyond its literal translation. Conatus is the impulse of each thing to persevere in its own existence, to continue being what it is, to expand, to grow, to increase its power to exist. It's not a conscious decision. It's the most fundamental nature of everything that exists. A stone has Conatus. A tree has Conatus. And you have Conatus. It's your will to live carried to its most essential expression. And from that concept, Spinoza builds something extraordinarily simple and extraordinarily useful: a thermometer for emotions. Everything you feel at any moment of your life is your Conatus responding to what happens to it. If something increases your power to exist, you experience it as joy. If something diminishes it, you experience it as sadness. Not in the vulgar sense of those words. Joy is not laughing. Sadness is not crying. They're much broader categories. Sadness is when the world makes you smaller, when something diminishes your capacity to act, to create, to understand. It's not a mood. It's a real weakening of what you are. Joy is movement toward greater power, toward greater capacity to act, understand, and create. Sadness is the opposite movement, the shrinking, the diminishment of what you are. Everything you feel fits into one of those two categories. And once you understand that, you start seeing your emotions in a completely different way. Now we arrive at the point that's most uncomfortable. The one Spinoza developed with a precision that's hard to accept the first time you hear it. Hope and fear are the same thing. Not metaphorically, literally. They're two faces of the same coin, and that coin has a name: uncertainty. Spinoza defined them with an exactitude worth hearing slowly. Hope is an inconstant joy, born from the idea of a future thing whose outcome we doubt. Fear is an inconstant sadness, born from the idea of a future thing whose outcome we also doubt. See what they have in common? Both are born from a future thing. Both are born from doubt about that future. Both keep you living in a moment that doesn't exist yet. When you hope something good will happen, you simultaneously fear it won't happen. You can't have hope without having fear. They're inseparable. They're the same state of uncertainty experienced from two different angles. And while you're in that state, while you float between longing and terror for something that hasn't happened yet, you're not here. You're not in the only moment when you can act, which is this one. This sounds wrong. I know it does. Because we've been taught our entire lives that hope is a virtue, that losing hope is giving up, surrendering, becoming passive. But Spinoza isn't talking about that kind of surrender. He's talking about something entirely different. This is where most people stop listening to Spinoza, because this sounds like he's telling you to give up on everything you want, but that's not what he's saying. Not even close. Living without hope is not being pessimistic. It's not resigning yourself or giving up. It's something completely different. It's trading, "I hope this happens," for "I understand what's happening." It's moving from imagined future to real present. It's changing the constant fluctuation between longing and terror for the solidity of someone who understands the causes of things and acts from that understanding. The sea is still there. The waves are still waves. But now you have the oar in your hand. Here's what Spinoza means. Hope keeps you passive because you're waiting for something outside yourself to change. You're hoping the world becomes what you need it to be. Understanding makes you active because you see what you can actually do right now. Not what you wish would happen, but what causes you can set in motion based on what actually is. That's not the same as Stoic acceptance. The Stoics said, "Accept what you cannot change." Spinoza says, "Understand why it is what it is, and then act from that understanding, not from your wishes about how it should be." The difference is subtle, but crucial. Acceptance can be passive. Understanding is always active. So here's my question for you. What's one thing you're hoping for right now? Something you keep thinking, "If only this would happen, then I'd be okay." And what would change if instead of hoping for it, you tried to understand why it hasn't happened yet, and what you can actually do from that understanding? Drop your answer in the comments. Spinoza divided affects, emotions, into two categories that determine everything: passive affects and active affects. Passive affects are what happened to you. They come from outside and move you without your having decided it. A compliment makes you feel good. A criticism destroys you. Good news lifts you. Bad news crushes you. You're the patient of your own life. External circumstances have the reins and you go where they decide to take you. Spinoza called this slavery, not as dramatic metaphor, as technical description of what happens when the origin of your emotional states is outside you. Active effects are those born from you, those that emerge from your own understanding, your own nature, your own capacity to understand what's happening and respond from that understanding. When you are the adequate cause of what you feel, you're free. Not because the external world has changed, but because you no longer depend on the external world to give you what you need. And here's the most concrete tool Spinoza offers in the entire Ethics. An affect ceases to be a passion the moment we form a clear and distinct idea of it. Translate it this way. The pain you don't understand has power over you. The pain you understand, you hold it in your hands. When something hurts you and you don't know why, when an emotion crushes you without your being able to name it or trace it to its origin, that emotion governs you. But the moment you can say, "This is what I feel, this is what caused it, this is the natural law explaining why it happened this way," something changes. The pain doesn't disappear, but it stops being a blind force dragging you. It becomes information you can use. Naming what you feel is the first act of freedom. For Spinoza, knowledge is not just information. It's the substance freedom is made of. And he organized it into 3 levels that function like steps on a ladder. The first is imagination. Not in the creative sense of the word, but in the technical sense Spinoza gave it. It's confused knowledge, inherited opinions without examination, rumors, perceptions distorted by fear or desire. It's the level from which most people operate most of the time. And it's the primary source of emotions that enslave us. When someone does something that hurts you, and your first reaction is, "Why did they do this to me?" You're at the level of imagination. You're interpreting the world from the distorted viewpoint of your wounded ego. The second step is reason. It's knowledge of common causes, of the laws governing human nature and the world. When instead of, "Why did they do this to me?" you ask, "What causes led this person to act this way?" something opens. You stop being the victim of a personal story and become someone who understands the logic of what's happening. The third step is what Spinoza called intuitive knowledge, direct vision of the connection between particular things and the totality of God or nature. It's the state where you no longer need to reason step by step because you see immediately the place each thing occupies in the order of the universe. It's not a permanent state nor easy to reach, but every time you climb a step, every time you move from imagination to reason or from reason to intuition, you experience exactly what Spinoza called joy, the increase in power that comes from understanding more. And that type of joy no one can take from you, because it doesn't depend on any external circumstance. It depends solely on the clarity of your understanding. There's a phrase from Spinoza that sounds strange and almost cold the first time you hear it. Whoever loves God cannot expect God to love them in return. It's not cynicism. It's the logical consequence of everything we've explored. If God is nature, if it's the totality of the universe expressing itself according to its own laws, then it makes no sense to ask that totality to make exceptions for you, to reorganize the cosmos to give you what you want, to reward you for your devotion with special favors. The love of God that Spinoza proposes is not love that asks for something in return. It's intellectual love, the deep and stable pleasure of understanding the order of the universe, of seeing how the pieces fit together, of understanding the causes of things, and feeling in that understanding something that doesn't oscillate, that doesn't depend on whether today was a good day or bad day. It's joy that doesn't fluctuate. And that brings us to the concept with which Spinoza closes the entire ethics: beatitude. It's not happiness in the ordinary sense. It's not the absence of suffering or the constant presence of pleasure. It's the state of the human being who has come to understand their own nature and their place in the whole with enough clarity to always act from that center. The free person, Spinoza said, doesn't think about death, not because they ignore it, but because their attention is completely on life, on what they can do now, on the power they can deploy in this moment with what they have. They don't flee from fear because they no longer need it as motivation. They don't chase hope because they no longer need an imagined future to justify their present action. They act. They understand. They exist with the totality of what they are. That's freedom according to Spinoza. Not doing what you want, being completely what you are. We started with a castaway in the open sea, tossed from one side to the other by the waves of fear and hope. Spinoza doesn't promise to calm the sea. The sea will always have waves. External circumstances will always change. People will act in ways you didn't expect. Things you plan will turn out differently than you imagined. What Spinoza promises is something different. To give you a center from which no wave can completely move you. A place inside yourself that's more solid than any circumstance because it's made of understanding, not hope. Because hope depends on what happens, and understanding depends only on you. And that leaves us with the question I want you to take with you today. If you lost all your hopes right now, everything you're hoping will happen so you can be okay, what would remain that's real in your power to act now? Write it in the comments. And if you made it this far and feel something in this video changed how you see your own emotions, share it with someone who's also navigating difficult waters. There's a question this video leaves open. If Spinoza is right and suffering is born from not understanding the causes of things, what happens when the causes of suffering seem to be life itself? When pain is not a perceptual error, but the fundamental condition of existing? That's exactly the question Schopenhauer asked. And his answer is one of the darkest and most honest philosophy has ever produced. The next video, Schopenhauer and the meaning of life, why we suffer, and how to stop. Don't miss it.